You want to talk about a spark? A jolt? A moment that could flip the Chargers' entire season? Because today, Chargers fans finally got the kind of news that makes you sit up straight. And trust me, this changes things. For weeks, we've watched this offense grind, struggle, and search for something, anything, to break the cycle. And today, that something just walked back into the building. Amaran Hampton is officially back. Now look, Chargers fans know exactly how long we've been waiting for this. Every week, every injury report, every update, it's been the same question: is he coming back yet? And finally, the answer is yes. Justin Herbert has to be breathing a little easier right now. He's had more offensive line combinations in front of him than most teams run in an entire season. It's been chaos. And when your QB is taking hits, absorbing pressure, and trying to carry the franchise on his back, you beg for a spark. Hampton is that spark. Now, is he going to come out and play 40 snaps immediately? No, not after weeks on IR. But that's not the point. The point is that this team has desperately needed one big play, one momentum swinger, one, hey, we're still alive, moment. Because we all saw how fast things went downhill in that Jags game. 28-7 in what felt like seconds. One explosive play changes everything. One moment can shift the entire mood of a team. And Hampton brings that type of moment. Before we go deeper, quick reminder. If you're enjoying the updates, make sure you hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a Chargers breakdown. It helps the channel more than you know, and I appreciate every single one of you. Now, back to business. The question becomes, how much will Hampton actually play in his return? The coaching staff isn't going to overload him, but don't underestimate the value of even 8 to 12 snaps from a guy who can completely flip a drive. The Chargers don't need perfection, they need a punch. A jolt. A wake-up call type of player. And Hampton fits that perfectly. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to know how big of an impact you think he makes in week 1 of his return. And stick with me, because next, we're breaking down the playoff math, and things are about to get very interesting. Alright, let's dive straight into something that really caught my attention. I was looking over this breakdown of the remaining schedules, and honestly, it paints a wild picture of how this AFC race could shake out. Take the Patriots, sitting at 10-2, looking calm, confident, and cruising. Credit where it's due. But the real story gets interesting when you start looking at the teams right in the Chargers' lane. Denver, for example. They've got the Commanders, Raiders, Packers, Jags, Chiefs, and then the Chargers to close it out. If you're a Broncos fan, you're thinking, 2 early wins and we're in a perfect spot. But here's the catch: if they stumble even once in those first 2 games, everything shifts. Suddenly that door creaks open, and the Chargers start thinking, wait, can we actually steal this division? Especially with Kansas City dropping a game they absolutely weren't supposed to lose. Then you look at the Colts, manageable, nothing overwhelming. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh? Now that's a gauntlet. Bills, Ravens, Dolphins, Lions, Browns, and the Ravens again. Every one of those teams is fighting for their lives, clawing for every inch. There's no breathing room in there whatsoever. And then we get to the team that matters most, the Chargers. This matchup against the Raiders isn't just a big game. It's a must-win, in every sense of the word. Because after that? Eagles. Chiefs. Cowboys. Texans. Broncos. If you drop the Raiders game, that schedule becomes a mountain. A cold, steep, unforgiving mountain. This team needs a spark, an edge, something that makes the offensive line look at least functional. Because right now, it's rough. And adding one player won't fix everything, but sometimes one spark is all you need to keep the season alive. Stay with me, the next part gets even more intense. At this point in the season, you're not magically rebuilding an offensive line. You're not reinventing anything. But if that group can just be less bad, even a little, it changes everything. Because look at what's coming. The Eagles. The Chiefs. The Cowboys, who, honestly, have been way better than anyone expected, and that matchup in Dallas late in the season? That's the kind of game that feels like a pressure cooker. Then a trip to Denver, where nothing comes easy. It's a slate loaded with heavyweight punches. And when you scan the rest of the conference, you see the same pattern everywhere. Teams beating on each other, trading blows week after week. Colts, Jets, Broncos, and back to the Colts again. Jacksonville gets Indy twice in a 4-week stretch. The Bills? They're staring down Steelers, Bengals, Patriots, Browns, Eagles, Jets. It's wild. Every team has a couple of should-win games, and then 4 absolute wars. And the Chargers fall into that exact formula. Those easier games? You have to take them. No excuses, no slip-ups, no sleepwalking. Because right now, it almost feels like the postseason has already begun, not officially, but emotionally. Every week is survive and advance. A loss doesn't mathematically eliminate you, but it knocks the wind out of everything you're building. It's almost like each matchup becomes its own elimination game. One swing in the wrong direction, and suddenly you're staring uphill, wondering how many chances you have left. Even look at Detroit, their situation is wild. They play the Cowboys next week, and honestly, the stakes are brutal. The loser walks away on life support. The winner? On to the next fight. Stay with me, because the next piece ties everything together. Let's keep moving forward here, because this is where perspective really matters. Every week you survive, every win you stack, you buy yourself a little more time. And while some teams are hanging on by a thread, the Chargers aren't in that same desperate spot, at least not yet. But when you're a fan, it's easy to get tunnel vision. You sit with a bad loss for 2 weeks, and it just lingers in your head like a bad echo. And the Jacksonville loss? That wasn't some heartbreaking, last-play gut punch. It wasn't a missed chip shot field goal or a miracle Hail Mary. It was just ugly. The kind of game that makes you stare at the screen and go, man, that was rough. But when you zoom out, the Chargers are still 7-4. Still right in the mix. And this matchup with the Raiders is exactly the kind of game you have to take care of. Not because it defines your season on its own, but because it's the game you're supposed to win. It's a rivalry, the Raiders aren't good, and dropping this one would make everything that follows so much harder. Beat the Raiders, and the entire mood shifts. You give yourself space. You give yourself permission to slip once or twice later if the schedule gets nasty, because every other team is going to get punched in the mouth too. It's happening across the league. Nobody is cruising through December. I catch myself doing the same thing with the Lions, staring at one bad game and thinking the sky is falling. But then you look around and realize, everyone is taking hits. Everyone is stumbling. This conference is chaos. So the goal becomes simple, get to 10 wins. From there, you're alive. You're dangerous. You're in the conversation. 7 losses doesn't knock you out. 7 losses just means you're still swinging. Stay with me, the final stretch is where things get really interesting, and that's the thing about this new 17-game world, every extra week stretches the emotions out a little more. A season doesn't just end, it drags, twists, and pulls you in every direction. One loss feels heavier, one win feels like oxygen. It messes with your sense of momentum. Speaking of time shifting, let me ask you something, does Black Friday even feel like Black Friday anymore? There was a time, not even that long ago, when it was an absolute event. People circling newspaper ads, mapping out routes, waking up before sunrise like they were preparing for battle. Some of you probably worked retail during those years, and if you did, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It was chaos. Doors opening at 6 in the morning, crowds pouring in, everyone half awake but running on pure adrenaline. It was exhausting, but it was kind of thrilling too. Back then, the deals felt legendary. Half off this, a ridiculous markdown on that, stuff you didn't even need suddenly felt like treasure. You'd see a toaster go from $29 down to $9 and think, okay, that's it, we're waking up early. TVs stacked to the ceiling, people forming lines in the most random aisles, even the frozen food section became a waiting room. I kind of missed that energy. Now you just click twice on your phone and it's at your door for the same price. Convenient? Sure. But it doesn't have that story behind it, that moment where you say, yeah, I was there when the doors opened. Anyway, those were the days. Black Friday now is just a quieter version of what used to feel like an American holiday. Stay with me, there's more coming.